learners, and welcome to another session on social work concepts. Today we shall be learning about social movements and social reforms. Now, we heard a lot about social movements. What are social movements? Now, everything that we hear according to the mass uprising and all is not always social movement. So in general, what I'm going to say is social movements are not highly institutionalized and arise from spontaneous social protest directed at specific or widespread grievances. Now, Paul Wilkinson perceived it as a deliberate collaborative endeavor to promote change in any direction by any means, including violence, illegality, revolution, or withdrawal into a utopian community. Now, if we look at a certain definition, Diney mentioned that about an implicit empirical agreement about the use of the term is largely missing. Now, reflecting the lack of agreement among the social activists and scientists regarding the term social movement. So we know that even in history or in the present contemporary times, there is a mismatch on the term or a definition as to what social movement is all about. Now, the term social movement referred to various forms of collective action aimed at social reorganization. So now this is something which everyone in the society takes about in order to bring about a change. A social movement must prove a minimal degree of organization ranging from a loose, informal organization to the highly institutionalized or bureaucratized corporate group. Madan in 1995 describes a social movement as an organized attempt by a number of people united by a shared belief to effect or resist changes in the existing social order by non-institutionalized means. Social movements aim at attaining of social recognition and the assertion of rights or existential interests hitherto denied to a group or category of people. Now, in this term, we'll be discussing about different kinds of social movements that are prevalent in the society, in particular reference to India. Now, in short, social movements may be seen as deliberate and collective action undertaken by people without any established institutional structure to bring about changes in society thought to be desirable and essential for enabling them to lead a decent and dignified life in accordance with normative standards. Now, what would be the salient features of a social movement, or what would describe as a social movement? In simple terms, we can say that the salient features of a social movement could be, number one, discontentment or anger with the existing social system or the felt need to protect and promote far neglected interest or social identity at jeopardy or which are at risk. Now, secondly, we can also mention that collective awareness of and commitment to a common cause. Now, number three, we can also mention that social movement could be one of the willingness to launch collective action through mobilization of like-minded people's efforts. Now, the fourth one, we could also emphasize that initiation of some kind of commonly agreed upon activity according to a predetermined program schedule. 5. Reference to values of autonomy, equity, human dignity, human rights, etc. Now, number 6, we could also go on saying that the revolt, rebellion, reform or revolution and employment of methods such as protest, demonstration, strike, gherao, bunds, etc. could be a part of social movement. The recent example in India could be the famous or the infamous farmers movement, where all the farmers all over India gathered together and protested against certain law of the government. Now, number 7, we could see that the absence of any distinct point marking the beginning or termination of the social movement. There may be a multiplicity of factors to cause a movement. It could be, like we've mentioned, discontentment, inability to achieve certain aspect, the need to empower one group, one category or a gender. So the factors could be multiple. Sati, untouchability, dowry, deforestation, child labor, bonded labor, etc. may generate discontentment with the existing situations. So these are some of the examples that have been in the history where people protested and there was a movement and uproar, and because of which laws have changed for the betterment of the society. Other causes may include domination and harassment by criminals, mafia dons, or dominant religious sects over other individuals or religions, generally in minority, or even a dominant culture openly condemning another cultures, endangering their basic existence, or attempting to subtly alter their original culture. Here I would like to even mention about the gender movement that we've talked about, the LGBT community, where we have the Gay Pride movement. This is done in order to assert their identity, to tell the world, to tell the society, to tell the community about the existence, and that they do not need to be subdued by the other so-called societal norms. Now, other issues may include empowerment, sustainable development, or preservation of distinct cultural identity, or even social integration, all of which are considered vital for decent and dignified living. However, it has always to be borne in mind that proliferation of education and science and technology, particularly information technology, have accelerated the emergence of social movements. Here I would also like to tell you about the social media. The social media is a very widespread tool in order to reach information. Information reached to particular countries, particular people, particular community in a minute of, in a split seconds. So if somebody is discontented about something, the message passes on, and there is a kind of a movement that gathers force, that gathers momentum, and probably changes for the betterment of the society. Now, all social movements motivate their participants to analyze and interpret how a situation promotes or towards their common collective interest, and decide on course of actions necessary to achieve what they visualize to be desirable. Now, however, once they achieve the desired results, they terminate, paving the way for other movements relevant to other needs in society to emerge. It is certain and sometimes assured that the social movements will prevail as well as exist until such time that political, economic, educational and social institutions guaranteeing the development of the right kind of humans are established. So we can say that social movement exists not only because there's a need. Nobody gets up in the morning and decides to have a social movement or to start a social movement. It arises because of the need to change certain flaws in the political system or the economic system, even the educational and any other kind of system that we may encounter. Now, let me talk about the observation by T.K. Oman, where social movements are highly significant to social work as they provide the stage for confluence between the old and the new values and structures. So this is what Oman is of the viewpoint, thereby challenging the existing social structure, eradicating social evils and preventing exploitation. So we see that in social work, social movements is a part of the culture where the social workers and the community in tandem would like to bring about a change in the society and thereby bring about a society which is for the common good of everyone. Now we will be discussing about some powerful social movements in India. For this, I'd like to call upon my fellow faculty, Dr. Linga Kondaswamy, to explain about social movements. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Rose. We discuss some important social movements in India. Swadeshi movement, 1905, Satyagraha movement, Chipko movement, 1973, Namantrana Andolan movement in 1978, Narmada Bachao Andolan movement in 1985, Jan Lokpal Bill in 2011 and Nirbhaya movement in 2012. We discuss the important social movements one by one. First one, Swadeshi movement in 1905. The revolution that started in India's struggle for liberty centered on throwing the British Empire out of control by becoming self-sufficient Swadesh. Satyagraha movement. Satyagraha was one of the Indian history's most noted campaigns that peacefully brought together thousands of people. Mahatma Gandhi started the non-violence movement to return the British to their country and free India from foreign rule. This movement known Satyagraha movement in freedom struggle movement, Chipko movement in 1973. In this movement, people fighting against deforestation by embracing trees to avoid their cutting. The agitation started at the beginning of the 1970s, led by Chandni Prasad Bhatt and Sundarlal Bahuguna as a group of women centered against the tree slicing. And another important movement, anti-emergency movement in 1975. Thousands of students fought against the emergency imposed by government in 1975. Another movement, Namantrana Andolan movement in 1978. The name of the Marathwada University of Aurangabad to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University was changed by the Dalit movement. This 16-year-old campaign succeeded in 1994 when Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar Marathwada University's name was accepted as compromise. Another important social movement in recent era, Jan Lokpal Bill movement, knownly anti-corruption movement under the leadership of Anna Hazare in 2011. The entire nation came together and stayed by him when anti-corruption activist Anna Hazare launched a hunger strike in New Delhi on 5th April 2011. Nirbhaya movement 2012, one of the angry reactions from people who expressed very clearly that they have had enough was the Delhi gang rape 2012. After the incident, thousands of people protested around the country on the streets. After the Nirbhaya movement, Government of India enacted Nirbhaya Act. So these are the important social movements in India. Now we discuss another topic, social reform. In every society, cultural degeneration sets in of some point of time, particularly when its followers forget the basic purpose of various customs and traditions. They blindly observe various rites and rituals associated with them only because of their forefathers have been performing them. Consequently, they practice social evils that hamper personality development and effective social functioning. For example, in India, the open Varna system degenerated into a closed caste system. Abating practices such as untouchability, inaccessibility, unseeability, and even unapproachability. When social evils start manifesting themselves on a very large scale and become fairly widespread, some enlightened people start giving a serious thought to them and devising measures to get rid of them. And it is at this juncture that social reform begins. Few social reformers, for example, Raja Rammohan Rai, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Mahatma Phule, Swami Dayananda Saraswati, fought against social evils like Sati system, Parda system. Raja Ram Mohan Rai founded Brahma Samaja for the women education and fought against Sati system. His entire life spent on against Parda system and provide education to women and widows. Swami Dayananda Saraswati founded Arya Samaj. He gave one slogan, "Go back to Vedas." And Swami Mahatma Phule was started Satyashodhak Samaj, focused on women education, depressed class education. The term reform, according to Webster's dictionary, it means the improvement or amendment of what is wrong, corrupt, unsatisfactory, etc. Social reform, thus broadly speaking, refers to eradication of immoral, unhealthy, corrupt and wrong practices which thwart human and social development. According to M.S. Gore, social reform involves a deliberate effort to bring about a change in social attitudes, culturally defined role expectations and actual patterns of behavior of people in a desired direction through process of persuasion and public education. Now I invite Professor Rose Nimbicum elaborate on social reform movements and major characteristics of social reforms and social reform movements in India, especially scheduled caste, women's education and other backward classes movements.
Thank you, Dr. Swami. Now we shall go ahead with the major characteristics of social reform. Like Dr. Swami mentioned clearly about the different kind of social reforms and why the society needs reform. That is, the reform comes about because of the social degeneration which is in time, because people forget the basic purpose of the tradition and customs, or people are moving away from the norms that is supposed to be keeping other people happy or preserving or respecting the value of human beings. And that is why we have great social reformers, and we've been studying about them, and that is why the social reforms, as mentioned by Dr. Swami, is really pertinent for our course, especially in relation to social work. Now we will go ahead and understand what major characteristics are of social reforms. I would like to start by mentioning the existence of some social evil impeding proper human growth and social development. Now, collective and focused efforts deliberately made by people to mitigate and date social evils. That is the essence of social reform. Now, social reform also provide overall satisfaction with the generally prevailing situations in society and existence of belief that the overall system is not to be overthrown. So there's a belief of the society, there's a belief in the ability of the society to improve. But if there is no improvement and if there is nothing that can be done, so social movements happen and social reforms also come about. We can also see that the overall satisfaction with the generally prevailing situation in society and existence of belief that the overall system is not to be overthrown. Number 4, the characteristics of social reform is also that the employment of non-violent methods and means to bring about desired changes in the area in which evil practices exist, and use of such measures like persuasion, change of heart, etc., as may lead to eradication of existing evil. Now we can also mention that the study of social reform is important for professional social worker. This is because they are concerned with improving the social functioning of people and introducing desired changes in social structure and system. And both these objectives cannot be attained till varied kind of social evils and unhealthy and undesirable usages and practices continue to exist in society. And that is why when we started the introduction to this chapter, we talked about what is social work. In layman terms, we identified social work as a task or as a professional way of helping others to help themselves. So if the society is going in a downward position, social workers come up and help to bring about changes in the social structure and in the system that is existing. Now, social workers generally, because of the basic faith in non-revolutionary approach to be adopted for introducing desired changes in society, want to bring about almost social changes. To begin with, by doing away with varied kind of social evils like dowry, sati, parda system, child labor, bonded labor, etc. through social reforms. So these are some of the issues that we've been grappling with from time immemorial, and however, it is a good way to say that dowry system, the sati system is out of the scene. However, we still see that in our contemporary society, child labor exists. In a way, bonded labor is also existing, and also the parda system. Now, this is a kind of a reform that we have to bring about, and we have to talk about it. It will take time, but we are hopeful as social workers that change will definitely prevail in the society. Now, let us also talk about other major characteristics of social reform, which may include perceived existence of some social evil impeding proper human growth and social development. Now we come to the situation where we talk about the differences between social reforms and social work. Now, the noteworthy differences between the two could be that social reformers are more or less satisfied with the overall conditions existing in society, and their discontentment is confined to certain specific areas of social life. On the contrary, in case of revolt, there is generally marked dissatisfaction with the existing social structure and system and the basic values that regulate them, and generally are prepared to overthrow them. Now, while social reformers influence powers that formulate policies and enact such laws necessary to bring about desired changes in certain areas of social life considered undesirable and baneful to personal and social development, revolutionaries attempt to radically overthrow existing social structure and systems perceived to be degenerative, not necessary always through bloodshed. Now, the study of social reform is important for professional social workers because they challenge and do away with social evils, thereby improving the social functioning of the people and introducing desired changes in social structure and system. This is what we have always been explaining. The major aspect of being a social worker, being a professional social worker, is to bring about a change in the society, is to bring about a change in the system, is to bring about a change in the laws, which might be degenerative for some community, some group, or the situation as a whole. So as a social worker, one has to be dedicated in allowing to understand the situation as it exists and try to bring about a change. Now, these objectives cannot be attained till varied kinds of social evils and unhealthy and undesirable usages and practice continue to exist in society. It would be a very ideal situation when we talk about no bad practices or undesirable changes happening in the society. Because as mentioned, as the word that I've used, ideal situation, something which is you want it, but it is not going to happen. So as a social worker, one has to understand that evil practices will continue in the society, unhealthy usages will be happening in the society. But the idea is how to go hand in hand, how to bring about linkages with bringing about a change in the society while dealing with the unhealthy and undesirable practices. Now, social workers generally, because of the basic faith in non-revolutionary approach for introducing desired changes in society, want to bring about social change. And this we've mentioned again and again. In history, we've talked about the dowry system, sati, the parda system, child labor, bonded labor, you name it, you've got it, different kinds of problems that is existing in the society. and which have been brought about a change through the social reformers. Now, in the contemporary society, social workers may not be called as social reformers, but social workers are there to bring about a change in the society which is existing, or there are certain kinds of evils that are existing. With this, I hope you're able to understand what we have been trying to talk to you about, what is the basic component of social work, and what is social movements and social reforms that we've discussed, and I hope you had a great learning. Thank you so much. Before we end our session, I would like to talk to you about social network. Social network is something what we all know as a social media that connects us to people all over the world. Now, social network is also important when we talk in terms of social workers. Now, the term network generally denotes any net-like combination of filaments, linens, veins, passages, or the like. In the words of Scott, quote unquote, a social network is any articulated pattern of connection in the social relations of individuals, groups, and other collectives. Now, you might be wondering why we are talking about social network. Now, this is also important because when we talk about being a social workers cannot function in isolation. We humans are social animals, and social workers need a situation, needs a group, needs a network to perform the duty or to work or to diagnose certain situation. The origin of the term may be traced back to 1930s, that is social network, when many social scientists started using the terms like web, fabric, etc. in the context of society. Basically borrowed from textiles, these symbols were used to indicate the interweaving and interlocking nature and character of social relationship, which people in society are forced to establish in order to satisfy their varied kinds of physical, psychological, social, and spiritual need. So when we talk about a relationship, there's an interweaving or interlocking of partnership of two people, of a community, of a family, and that is why we call it as a network. Now, these words were initially used by Radcliffe Brown in anthropology and Jacob L. Moreno in social psychology. It was Moreno who propounded the idea of depicting a social network with the help of a diagram called sociogram. It was in the 1950s that a distinct methodology of social network came into being. It was George Hohmann who in the year 1951 formalized the network metaphor. The idea behind underlying the network analysis is the interconnection of different points by lines, and the patterns of lines which connect these points can be mathematically processed. So in social work, the term network, why is it useful or why do we use it? It is used in a specific sense to refer to an interconnection or web or fabric of various like-minded voluntary organization or community-based organization, non-governmental organization, which are engaged in the pursuit of similar objectives, created with a view to working together in a coordinated and effective manner. Now, when we talk about the importance of social network in the contemporary society, then we can here mention that the contemporary social setup in which the state is gradually withdrawing from social sector, leaving it primarily to the voluntary organization to work, there has been a mushroom growth in their numbers, and many of them singly are quite weak. And it has become essential now that the social networks are created to increase the effectiveness through their webbed existence and coordinated functioning. So as mentioned, social being, we humans are social beings, we cannot work in isolation. So we need a network of people, a network of community to work together with. Now, the important characteristics of social network as used in social work could be as under. Number one, like-minded NGOs or CBOs working in a particular field in a special areas which may be as limited as a town or a city or as broad as the entire world, coming together to constitute a network of their own. Now, these NGOs, that is non-governmental organization or the community-based organization, agree to work for certain well-specific issues or concern. These NGOs or CBOs or NOs form social network to protect and promote their common interests and thereby to strengthen them through mutual reinforcement. Now, social networks undertake a wide variety of programs and activities and perform a multiplicity of functions to protect and promote the genuine interests of members of whatever the beneficiaries of the NGOs or the community-based organization, with special reference to the commonly cherished concerns. Now, these NGOs or CBOs contribute to create a fund to enable their social network to function. So, it's a community of people working together. These social networks are highly useful for social work because they provide organized platforms for mobilizing or mobilization of required resources and formation of healthy public opinion and promotion of well-being of people, especially the weaker and vulnerable sections of society, helping them in promoting socio-economic development and assist in speedy eradication of social evils that we so much talk about. So in the end, we can say that in the course of time, it has been felt that since the psychosocial problems have their roots in faulty social structure and system, and many community or many group or many caste-based people are facing these problems, which cannot be held responsible, or they cannot be held responsible for his or her problem. So there is a need for evolving and including some weapons in the armory known as social work, which is coming about, which could play a significant role in bringing about desired changes in society, and thus emerge social action as an auxiliary or secondary method of social work. So we can say that social work has performed a number of functions, and it is a specialized kind of work, helping people to understand what they need, what is the evil in the society, and thereby bringing about the much needed change in the society. With this, I hope you've had a great learning experience. Thank you so much.